Welcome back to the ZIZO Effect podcast, your go-to source for all things gamified. I'm Jimmy Chebat, and today we're thrilled to have a very special guest with us, Zach DiaPaul, ZIZO's System Integrations Coordinator. In this episode, we'll dive into the crucial role of systems integration and optimizing business operations and maintaining data integrity. Zach is here to share his insights on turning complex data into actionable insights, and how ZIZO's cutting-edge solutions prevent the common pitfalls of manual data entry and the overwhelming data drown. We'll also explore how ZIZO leverages real-time data to enhance decision-making and streamline operations, all while upholding our commitment to trust and accuracy in data. So sit back for an insightful conversation about the technology driving ZIZO and learn from one of our key team members. Get ready, it's game time.
Hello and welcome to the ZIZO Effect podcast. I am your host, Andrew J. Reimers, and at one time I was considered, at worst, the fifth best country singer in Western New York. Now, I don't know where I fell. I knew I wasn't number one.
At worst? What about at best?
Second.
Okay.
I'll never figure out the exact numbers of the tally and the votes, but as they say, it's an honor to be nominated. But today, I am really excited to jump into the world of data, which is a statement I never thought I would say.
You're lying, but that's okay.
With a very special guest, our systems integrations coordinator at ZIZO, Mr. Zach DiaPaul. Welcome, Zach, to the ZIZO Effect podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. And my fun fact, this was actually my original office at ZIZO.
Was it really?
It didn't look like this, but it was.
No,
it was
did
my
not.
office.
That is funny. Yes, this is where we used to come and chat, and really where we got to know each other. And
True.
You know, dare I say, it's you're kind of like my work husband, man.
Whoa. Listen, I don't want to get in trouble with that, but that is true.
Your wife doesn't want
Yeah, it's true. She won't pay.
Well, Zach, honestly, man, it's so great to have you here. You know, we're kind of going off our plan a little bit. Usually Jimmy and I are here talking, but we wanted to bring you in because we want to really discuss the importance of data and integrity, things like that. But if you've been following along, and hopefully if you've been following along at home, you know that we like to start every single episode with a game. And that game is called Name the Game.
I got it wrong, but that's okay. We knew it was going to happen.
It's all right.
Doesn't
man.
matter the amount of practice. I'm ready to play. That's the important part.
Awesome. Well, we have wonderful and talented producers backstage, Alex and Emma, and what they do, they play a song. We have our buzzers here, and it is up to us to see who can name the game first. Now, points don't matter. The records at this point are just...
Oh, it matters. But
it matters. No, it does matter. But let's get your buzzer to the front, hand on the table. When you're ready, we are too.
Got it. Although, all right, so it was definitely early 90s NHL, but get the exact game. I'm going to go with, played a lot of 93 and 94. I'm going to go with 94.
NHL 94, is that it? It is!
All right.
Pumping crowd noise! Zach, you win an amazing pair of ZIZO socks.
Awesome. Thank you.
Oh my gosh,
Can
you
never
are
have
going to
enough of these.
step up your sock game with the ZIZO logo socks.
Love it. Right.
Do you love it?
Yeah, sure. I'm a dad now. I can wear this kind of socks.
You can wear these kind of socks. These are a hit wherever we go. That's what everybody wants, is the ZIZO socks. All right, so let's get down to business. Zach, you've been with ZIZO here for a couple years, and if there's one phrase that resonates through these halls and through these offices, what is it?
I know exactly. We sell trust.
We sell trust. So, as our resident data expert, I think that's fair to say,
Sure.
let's dive straight into how ZIZO embodies the concept of we sell trust through data integrity. Why don't you give me a little bit of background?
Yeah, so, I mean, the biggest thing is if people don't trust what we're showing in ZIZO, then they're not going to care about what we show them, and they're going to, kind of fall out of love with ZIZO, I'm going to say it that way. And they're not going to, care about what we tell them, how they're doing, because they don't trust what we're showing. And so a big part of what ZIZO does is we make sure that we're, integrated directly with their systems, and we show them exactly what they're doing on a day-to-day basis. And those numbers have to match. So that's one of our biggest things here is making sure that that data is correct and accurate.
Yeah, definitely. We've seen some pretty amazing examples of the way people are attempting to do what we do using spreadsheets and things like that. Can you talk to me about some of the crazies? Maybe you have some background, some history, and some stories prior to ZIZO as to how you were managing data and how you were doing all of that. It was a manual process, right?
Absolutely. I think part of basically my career has been being that guy at a company and managing spreadsheets that just can be incredibly time intensive and sensitive. And, I think a lot of things you see at companies is that data drown where, they are able to pull the reports from systems. They may get into their phone system, their CRM, time and attendance system, and they're pulling all these reports and they get all this data compiled and either, pages and pages, or they put it all in a nice big spreadsheet. And then, it's very difficult to sift through that data and actually, use it in a meaningful way. And I kind of liken it to Charlie on Always Sunny, the meme. I don't know if you probably know it.
No,
but
I'm familiar.
For anybody that doesn't, he's trying to solve a mystery, and he's got, tons and tons of notes and pictures on a board, and there's string going in all different directions, and he's all frazzled because it's so much to try to take in and digest that it just can be confusing and difficult to follow and track. And I think that's what we see a lot in companies with these spreadsheets, where they're impossible really to, you spend all day trying to analyze the numbers that you see in there because they're just not, optimized in a way to easily read or manage the data.
So data drown is a term you threw out there, man. We hear that a lot. And, I would love if you could talk to me a little bit more about data drown and why it's crucial for businesses to manage this.
Yeah, I think, really using the data is telling the story of the business. And when you get this data drown where, there's so much data, you can't analyze it properly, or, you lose track of certain things. It's really easy to tell the wrong story or tell an incomplete story on what your business is doing. So it's really important to have, an easily managed way to digest the data that you're able to pull from your system.
Well, I mean, not just wrong or incomplete, but, we've seen examples in the past, and, I'm sure that you've experienced it as well. When you have that much data coming from that many different places and you try to organize it and you try to bring it into one place, anyone can manipulate that data to say whatever they want it to say.
Yeah, that is a big thing. I think it's kind of like storytelling. You can tell your own story from, the same situation. I think you get, different people in life, they go through the same situation and they both tell a completely different story. And it's all about how you digest and, and reiterate that information, data. And so, yeah, I think it's important to have it optimized in a way that you can easily, tell the appropriate story.
Yeah. No,
and back it up if nothing else.
Exactly. That brings us then, to the idea of ZIZO and the way we combat that. Solutioning, as we like to say around here, and our mission is to centralize that data and become that single source of truth, right?
Yeah, I think the centralization is the big part there, and really that's where we're taking all those different systems, phone systems, CRM, and we're pulling that data into a centralized warehouse where they don't have to manage all those different reports. We get that in different ways. We maybe pull reports, we have them send us reports regularly, or we'll integrate, through an API and get that information directly. And we pull it all into one centralized place, and then we map and optimize it in a way that we can display it. So it's, an easily told story, or, it's, you can at least easily track what's going on, and you don't get lost in all of the irrelevant data that maybe kind of is part of those reports. We pick apart what's most important, and that's a big part of the process that we do here at ZIZO.
Well, a big part of the process, and when we talk about data lag, we try to get as close to real time as we can.
Yeah, as close as possible, and that is a big aspect of it, is that real time. I think a lot of times people pull reports, end of the month, and they can see what happened, during that last month, but that's not really relevant to today. And I kind of use a sports analogy. If I'm a coach and I'm in the middle of the game and I need to change my strategy up because something's not working, if I get that report, the data on what's going on in the game tomorrow or a week later, okay, well, I probably already lost that game because I wasn't able to make the changes I needed. So that real-time feedback loop, that's the important thing. I need that data now. I need it during the game so I can make my adjustments and hopefully win the game, or, in business world, hit your goals for the day. You need that instant feedback.
I want to dive into something you just said there about the feedback loop. Can you give me a little bit more about what that means?
Yeah, sure. I think, I use the coaching analogy for the real-time data, but the next step in that is the players in the game, or, your agents in your business, and that feedback loop that they get from that real-time data where, if I'm in the middle of a game and, maybe I'm a quarterback and I'm not seeing the field well, or the defense is disguising coverage to one side, if I don't get that information in real time where I can then make the adjustment in game to, make my changes, then I'm not going to win the game. I'm not going to, I'm going to end up struggling. And same in the business world where, if I don't know during the day, hey, this is what I'm doing wrong and why I'm not going to hit my goal, I need that feedback loop of saying, oh, look, I made a couple extra calls and closed a couple extra deals and I can see it. I just took the call and boom, there's my, my number increased. Okay, this is working. And now I'm going to keep working at it and, and keep doing better at my job, knowing that I'm seeing what I'm doing is correlating to, that end goal.
Yeah, no, it's a great thing. And that's some of the best feedback that we get from our users of ZIZO is having that transparency and having that real-time feedback loop, because instead of having a manager come and yell at them at the end of every month and say they did a bad job, they can, go to them during the day and say, hey, your numbers are down a little bit, anything going on. And maybe there is something in their personal life that's happening, or maybe that's just, I don't know, I'm just unlucky today, but, I'm going to keep pushing and trying harder. Like, it adds so much, not only you mentioned the business side of things, but in terms of the relationships and the culture, it changes everything. We've seen it firsthand.
I think you made a good point about, at the end of the month, someone comes back to you and says, oh, what happened here? And you may not remember 2 weeks ago. I mean, I don't remember what I had for breakfast at the time. Like, I'm not going to remember why I had a slow day, the third day of the month. I need that instant, oh man, I'm really lagging today. Let me pick it up. And I know why I'm lagging. Maybe I don't know, you need coffee or something like that to get me going. Having that real-time feedback, it's way more impactful than at the end of the month being told, hey, you didn't have a good month. What happened? I don't know, a million things.
Yeah, a million things happen. I'll do better next time.
Yeah, exactly.
And you buy yourself another month.
That's it. And then it just keeps building. You're doing the same thing. You're always, I'll fix it next time. Or, something else goes wrong. And, well, I'll figure that out next time. And you're never actually, solving any problems.
Yeah. We've both been under the Jimmy Chebat learning tree, as it is here at ZIZO for, a few years. And I think there was so much I needed to learn about, ZIZO's great. And, the platform is slick. It looks great. What it does, it is amazing, not only for the people that use it, but for leadership that use it to manage their employees. But I think one of the coolest things that I've learned over the last couple of years is the idea of leading versus trailing indicators. So I want to sort of pass it over to you. Can you clarify the difference between leading and trailing indicators and why they're both important?
Yeah, no, I think we kind of touched on it a little bit there with, the idea of finding out at the end of the month how you did and seeing what that happened. That's that idea of trailing where, you're seeing the end result, but you're not understanding necessarily what happened to get there. You just see the outcome. And that's kind of that trailing indicator, something like, cleared money or closed deals in, the business world where that's the ultimate goal, but it's not telling you how you got there. And so that's the idea of leading indicators. And those are the things that really, we use in ZIZO to help end up, getting to that ultimate goal and that, I don't call it trailing metric necessarily, but, you want to increase that cleared money at the end of the month. You got to work on making calls, making the right calls, right party contacts, payment agreements, things like that you're on a day-to-day basis are projecting kind of where you're going to hit at the end of the month. That's what that leading indicator really, those metrics do is they kind of show you your forecasted outcome based on how you're doing right now. And then goes back to that feedback loop of, okay, well, I'm not on pace. It's kind of that idea of like I said, projecting, I'm not on pace. Well, let me work on the thing that I'm not doing well at. And having that feedback loop, I can easily do that now instead of at the end of the month, well, next time I'll fix it because now I know, I didn't hit my goal. Well, I want to know, am I on my way to hitting it? And that's where that leading indicator comes in.
Yeah, definitely. I don't want to, paint a picture here of all just sunshine and rainbows and every unicorns and teddy bears when it comes to integrations. I know that your job is very hard. I know there's a reason that ZIZO is set apart from other gamification platforms, and I know it's because of the custom integrations. Now, I'm not asking for any secret sauce or anything like that. Don't worry. But can you just talk to me a little bit? Like, I know this story, but I think it'd be really beneficial for the people listening. We did run into a client. It was a pretty well-known bank that we struggled with getting real-time data and getting those leading indicators. But can you kind of tell me the story about how you worked around that and how we were still able to improve the way they were getting their data?
Yeah, I think that's the thing. Obviously, this is all kind of perfect world that we're talking about. You can't always get, everything to the hour, or, we can't get every piece of data that we want just because there's limitations on the systems. And that's where, we spend a lot of time. Part of the integration process, it's really, about a 3-month process. And that a lot of that is working with the IT teams of our clients and working with our own IT team, which is incredible. They do all the real work. Figuring out how we can get that data as close to real time as possible. And like you said, one of our clients, I think it was eye-opening when we talked to them about, hey, how do you, measure your agents right now? And they said, oh, well, we track how they did in a couple calls throughout the month, and we kind of tell, probably at the end of the month, they're checking a call from 2 weeks ago and saying, oh, was that a good call? Was it a bad call? And then they maybe give that feedback in a kind of a poor feedback loop to their agents. And that's really trailing. I mean, that's like we talked about, it's really hard to make a difference, at least in real time. You're going to maybe do better next month because you got told last month you were a little bit low on, quality or whatever it may be. And so what we try to do is we tried to identify as many kind of what we call maybe behavioral changing or effort KPIs that we could track, that we could then, identify in the interim, even if it was a day late, that's a lot better than end of month.
Yeah.
And so we were able to track some different call metrics around, maybe average hold time, average wait time, some system called CallMiner, which does a really good job of tracking kind of the tone of calls or different score metrics within a specific call for an agent. And so tracking those things, and we want to build more on that, is how you can really help, give that instant feedback on things that the agents are doing right now in order to fix the end of month numbers. And so we started building those ideas out, and, like you said, it wasn't perfect. There were some KPIs that, we didn't get the data for a full week.
Yeah.
And we kind of hated that, truthfully, but a week is still better than a month. And I think that's where, even not in an ideal world, we're still able to make a difference. And ideally, in the future, we'll get it down to a day or intraday, but just any kind of improvement like that is going to make a huge difference, having that feedback.
Shout out to CallMiner, a leader in voice and call analytics. I love it. No, they're a great company. If you're looking into that, I would definitely recommend checking them out. They don't sponsor this. This is just my own personal opinion. Not yet.
We'll keep doing this. Maybe
I like it. Not yet. No, that was great. And I loved, the magic that you were able to work behind the scenes to be able to get, like you said, it wasn't perfect, but it was still better than what they were doing.
Yeah. And that's a win.
Well, and there's behavior, there's what I want to do, because you really set me up here. You lobbed one up. I'm going to knock it out of the park with this transition. You talked about a couple of different KPIs. I would really like to discuss that more in depth, because we discuss here on the ZIZO Effect podcast, and also just, with our customers and people that we're onboarding and things, is the different types of KPIs, because it's not just about the bottom dollar. It's not just about looking how you did last month, look how you did last quarter, look how you did last year. It's everything else, like you said, that goes into creating that money. So if you would, can you break down the different types of KPIs that companies, businesses, and leaders could be tracking?
Sure. Yeah. So I think it's really a great, something I learned when getting to ZIZO. First you think, okay, everybody's got a specific goal that they're trying to hit at their job. Everybody's job has a metric that you're told, make sure you do this. And maybe that's all you focus on. You don't think about all the things that go into, what help you do better at that one specific metric. And I think that's where, when you really break it down, and what I learned to do here is breaking down all those little things that you're doing at your job into those different KPI types that we're talking about. So, one is behavioral KPIs. So that's really something that's great in ZIZO to show, being able to see, something like hours worked, schedule adherence, you're showing up to work on time. That's behavioral thing. And we can track that and say through your time and attendance system, okay, yeah, you're doing a great job of showing up and being at your desk, at the time you're supposed to be and working your hours. And, that's something that if you're not doing that, okay, well, we're going to show you, hey, you're showing up to work 5 hours a day. And you probably know that, but now if we're throwing it in your face in ZIZO and saying, hey, like, look at, I can see, and everybody else can see you're only working 5 hours a day.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's start, that's kind of where we get into micromanaging, where, an agent is going to maybe make sure they're on time because they're kind of seeing like, I'm lagging behind everybody else and everybody else sees it now. So maybe I'm going to make that change internally. I want to make sure that I'm not the last in the office or, whatever it may be.
Yeah. And we saw that actually with the bank we were speaking about earlier. I thought something that was really interesting that came out of our time with them was it was an inbound call customer service department. So they had no control over the amount of calls that were coming in. However, what we did see was a spike in their availability on the phone.
Yeah.
That they were willing, ready, willing, and able to take those phone calls if they were to come in. And those numbers went up. And again, that's a behavior.
Yep. And it's even a little bit, that kind of gets into the next one there, which is the effort KPIs. So yes, am I showing up to work on time? It's behavioral in a way, but it's also effort. And effort really is where we see the most effectiveness within ZIZO, because that's where, we're able to say, okay, how many calls are you making? Right party contacts, your availability time or in queue time, things where it's not just behavioral, it's something that you can control based on how much effort you're putting into your job. And for us, it's really easy to show those in ZIZO and say, hey, you're not making a lot of calls. And I know that it doesn't take it's not skillful to dial the phone. It's probably just behavioral or effort where you're just not putting in a lot of work. And so being able to show that in a way that, again, that micromanages, where they're kind of like, well, I'm lagging behind everybody else. I better put in a little more effort today. Or, maybe you're having a slow day. It's not necessarily always a, terrible indicator of who you are as a worker, but just maybe you had a slow day or whatever it may be. And, we can show it like, hey, you're kind of lagging, maybe pick it up a little bit. And so that's where it's easy for an agent to pick it up, because it's not skill, it's just effort. It's how much, are you putting into your job, and we're rewarding you for putting in that effort. So that's the incentivization that we do within ZIZO.
I think my favorite one next would be the skill-based KPIs. Can you talk to me a little bit about those?
Yeah. So skill, as I kind of mentioned, that's generally not something that you can get better at it through practice, but, putting in effort necessarily isn't going to get you, more cleared money or, closing deals or selling things. Like that does take skill. And so in ZIZO, it's a really great one to reward through incentivization, because usually, better skill, the better you're doing for the company's making more money. And so we want to reward that. And so, having skill-based KPIs, as I mentioned, it's really great to see that, hey, I'm really good at my job and I can see that I'm doing really well. I'm on the top of the leaderboard. I'm earning the most money. So that's where we're kind of building on already good habits and just rewarding for that. And even not even necessarily monetarily, but just seeing you at the top of the leaderboard, it's that instant gratification of, hey, I'm really good at my job through skill, and I'm showing it and everybody else can see it.
Yeah. And, another real world example, as a former collector, I've been there, and you mentioned, anybody can make a call. It's important to the process. It's definitely one of the steps you have to take.
Yeah.
You get the right number and you get the right person on the phone. Great. You talk to them. But the thing is, that phone call is going to end one of two ways. They're either going to pay their debt, or they're going to tell you to screw off and hang up on you. That's generally how it goes. But the reason I bring that up is because to close that deal and to get somebody to acknowledge and to pay their debt after they've been defaulted for so long, there's a genuine skill that goes into that. And I saw a lot of collectors come and go that did almost everything right, but they just didn't have what it took to close the deal. It happens in sales as well, closing. So yeah, skill-based KPIs, like you said, these are the ones that are really cool to reward. And there's even ways to reward them. We can go down a rabbit hole with this as far as rewarding them more for helping other people and teaching people and training, but that's a whole nother can of worms.
No, it's good to have those in there because, like you said, that's really bottom line for the business, that skill of being good at your job. But then there's, another way to kind of influence, okay, maybe you're not as good at your job skillfully, but there's other things, behavioral effort, engagement. Engagement's another type of KPI where, doing different things like trainings, surveys, participation, you're going to get better and become more skilled at your job through some different things that we can track in the system. And, it's that learning basically is another way to put it. And so I think that's another type to track and help you advance in your skill-based KPIs.
Yeah. No, you're right. That was engagement. And then finally, the outcome KPIs.
Yeah. So just last is outcome. I mean, cleared money, QA score, or whatever it may be. It's the bottom line for the business. It's how are you doing at those KPIs? And obviously that's the thing that the company wants to reward the most. So, we make sure in ZIZO that that's something that we definitely incentivize. But we understand that, as we talked about through this whole podcast, it's all the other things that lead to that are the things we want to change. And then ideally everybody's doing great at their outcome KPIs. But
exactly.
So it's important to have, but
reinforce all the behaviors that go into driving the ultimate outcome that you're looking for.
Absolutely.
So Zach, real-time data, direct integrations, feedback loop, real time. We've, discussed all of that. Talk to me a little bit about how that enhances a decision-making amongst leaders within businesses.
Yeah, I think all of that, kind of puts in place the idea of having all that data we talked about initially, is maybe difficult to piece together, the Charlie board, having it all easily at your fingertips, having the, relevant information, sifting through, what's actually important, what actually changes that bottom line. That all helps the business and the agents tell the story of how they're doing in that real time and in a way that then you can, really understand the impact and how the business is doing and change your, future plans and your behaviors based on your, what you're seeing in the data. So telling the right story, the accurate story, and really what we see, I think one of the big things that I didn't necessarily think was going to happen, or one of the things that maybe surprised me was the amount of micromanaging that we see from the agents, where now they have all that data at their fingertips and they can easily sift through it. It's not, it doesn't take someone who's, really, in depth with spreadsheets to piece together the information. It's just readily available and they can see how they're doing day to day and they can make changes and they can come to the managers and say, hey, I'm leading in all these KPIs and doing really well. I want a promotion. Or, I'm not doing so great. I got to pick it up. And they may do that before the manager has to go to them and say, hey, you're not really, you got to pick it up. Otherwise, we're going to have to fire you, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
They're doing that on their own because all that data is there and easily, digestible in a way that they can understand.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, man. Before we wrap up, if you're interested in doing this, I want to make sure that I don't want to put you out.
All right.
But why don't you tell us a little bit more about your role at ZIZO and how you make this data-driven strategy a reality for the customers?
Sure.
Again, no secret sauce.
Yeah, no secret sauce. I think the secret sauce is a little bit of the teamwork here between the two of us, not to humble brag a little bit, but helps a lot having a good partner and a lot of good backup behind me on the development side. I mean, we have a great team of developers that really do all of the difficult, as you said, the secret sauce stuff that we won't get into too much about how we integrate and how we pull that data. But really, ZIZO isn't just a platform. It's kind of a lifestyle change is maybe a little bit much, but it's, a business lifestyle change where you and I, we really do a lot of work with both the IT team for our clients, obviously finding ways to integrate with their systems, high level stuff, reports being downloaded and sent, APIs, either, pulling data from their systems or them pushing us data. But really it's not just the IT teams. We work with operations teams and we delve into, what their business is doing on a day-to-day basis and their departments to figure out, okay, what are those different types of KPIs we can track? What are the KPIs that maybe they're not tracking, but hey, we can get the data. So let's start tracking this and showing you why it's relevant to have this, leading indicator that maybe you didn't track before. A lot of what we do is spending those months, really, multiple calls with the operations teams, understanding their business, finding those KPIs, and then figuring out how to track them through the data and pulling that information into our centralized warehouse, mapping, optimizing it in a way that we can display it in ZIZO. So it's, a nice, concise story for agents and managers to see and understand.
Awesome, man. Well, God, it's been really cool talking with you in a setting. I mean, we talk all the time, every single day, but we don't often do it with cameras all around us and lights and that.
What cameras? I don't even see cameras.
No, there's no cameras here. It's just a couple guys being dudes.
Guys being dudes. Yep, nailed it. I think it was half the demographic.
So, Zach, I got to ask. It's important that I think we get this out. I think it's important that we discuss this. Listen, we have the world here watching. So, Zach, everyone is wondering, and I'm here to ask the hard-hitting questions.
Good journalism. I like it. Go ahead.
That's right. When did you first realize you were such a nerd?
I think that's just, I've always been a nerd. There was no realizing. It's just always been the case.
So you were born that way. It was not a choice.
Exactly. Born that way. I could tell you, actually, as a child, Halloween candy, I think a lot of people organize their Halloween candy, maybe some OCD, but I didn't just organize it. I made a bar chart with my candy to see, which kinds I had more of. So
I guess, is there a picture of this?
I hope not. If there is, you're not getting it. So I guess I've just always been that way. I don't know why. A lot of problem solving. It's something I'm passionate about. Every job I've been in, I went from software engineering to accounting, back to software engineering, and every job I've been in, I just find my way to spreadsheets and analyzing data. So it's just, I guess, something I'm passionate about. ZIZO has been a great opportunity for me to be able to explore that more.
Yeah.
Definitely honing in on my nerd inner qualities. It's been fun. So I guess it's just something I was born with.
Yeah, no, that's important for people to understand. Live your truth, folks. It's Zach, it's honestly been such a pleasure. I know I joked at the beginning how excited I was to talk data, but truly the data integrity is, and we sell trust. Those are, the biggest factors in the success of ZIZO. And if it wasn't for you, we wouldn't be able to accomplish that. I want to thank you for being amazing at your job. I want to thank you for going out of your comfort zone, joining us here on the ZIZO Effect podcast. And most of all, I want to thank you for being a friend.
Appreciate it. Part of a great team. It's not just me. It's a good team here.
Awesome, man.
Includes you.
Well done. I'm proud of you.
Thank you for having me.
That wraps up today's deep dive into the world of systems integration and data optimization here at ZIZO. A big thank you to Zach DiaPaul for joining us and sharing his expertise on how sophisticated integrations and real-time data can transform business operations. Don't miss our next episode, where we'll have a very special guest, Richard Gold, member of the board of directors at M&T Bank and adjunct professor at the University at Buffalo School of Management. Rich will bring a wealth of knowledge and insight into the role of technology in shaping modern business practices. Thanks for tuning in, and as always, keep playing the game with the ZIZO Effect. See you next time. It's game time.